Well, hello and welcome to another episode of More Perfect Marketing, the live edition. We're streaming to you, hopefully, on multiple channels here on LinkedIn. In fact, it looks like we indeed are. And I'm here with my co conspirators, Ken Cook and AJ Saunders, to talk a little bit about revenue channels today, unexpected revenue channels for a lot of businesses, or expected but without any effort. And there's a lot of ways that you can bring money into your business, right? There's obviously going out and finding customers to sell to. There's the opportunity to sell them more, right? There's the possibility that they're going to come back and buy again or buy in larger amounts. But there's also this little thing that some businesses have taken for granted or are opportunistically taking advantage of, and other businesses have built machines around. And that is bringing referred business into your company, selling more of your product or service because somebody has been referred to you. And there's a lot of different ways that this breaks out. When I am in certain audiences, particularly online business audiences, and I say referral, instinctively they think about one type of referral. And I'm going to ask AJ to talk a little bit about that structure because it's a very good structure, but it's not the only way to build out a systematic machine around referrals. And so then we're going to dig a little bit deeper into some other ways that referrals can be built into your business systems. And so that's our topic for today. We have just under 20, I don't know, 7 minutes to go. And so, AJ, I'm going to hand this over to you because what I see online when it comes to referral marketing are these great little systems, to give away something free if you make so many referrals, or to refer a friend and have this incentive. And it's a great structure. Can you dig a little bit deeper into what that looks like? And then we're going to move on from like build on top of that as we continue.
Sure. So I think what you're kind of talking about is using social capital as a way to get referrals. And so I'm going to back up and not talk about all the too highfalutin stuff at this point. I'll leave that for the master at that, which is Ken, in a second. So I think there are loads and loads of ways that you can get referrals online. So yeah, you can do, can you share a social post on, say, X or Facebook? Can you send somebody an email? And a lot of these platforms are fantastic at giving you a really, really short, sweet, sharp message, and they give you these different options where you can share socials to emails to WhatsApp. I've seen ones that will allow you to do like text messages, and so it's super, super cool, and it's an easy way for you to generate some interest for you as a person, but it's also great for the business to be able to really see where the micro influencers, I guess is probably a technical term, where the micro influencers lies in terms of in their market, which then can be harnessed later in a variety of ways, which we'll definitely cover in this 27 or so minutes. But for me, that's really, really fascinating in terms of being able to drive interest, drive traffic, drive sales through existing networks, and just be able to harness that.
You brought up an area of referral marketing I hadn't even thought of, which is really the idea of amplification of a message and leveraging the customer to say, "Hey, will you go and share this?" But what I had in mind, and maybe you can speak to some of the technical setup of some of these things, are building out an email list by getting people to share this with three people, and when you get them to sign up, something happens, or similar things like that, because it ultimately it's not just about sharing awareness, but about getting people to online click the buy button. And so how do you get your existing audience to not only share something socially, but to be incentivized to recommend?
Yes, I think discounts, are great. I also think incentives. So I've seen companies that if you recommend 20 people, you get a free T-shirt. If you recommend 50 people, you get a free mug and a T-shirt. I I know one of the people that I admire greatly, Alan Weiss, does, if you buy 20 books, you get an hour of free consulting with him, which is worth, t- you know,
Thousands of dollars.
thousands
Yeah.
of dollars, right? And, and therefore, I think the mechanism of being able to use somebody else's social capital to build your list or build your business, but also then being able to build a relationship with them directly through emails, through social, through whatever channel you're using, is super powerful and is super direct, and allows you to really harness social marketing, but also to be able to drive sales through really interested people. And I think whether or not you use a referral system of incentivizing people, I think getting people to say, I've been on this mailing list for 3 months, I love it, and you should be on it as well, and get driving silence from that is far easier, far more productive than I think they're horrible, by the way, but the horrible pop-ups that you see all the time. Hey, sign up to our list and get 10% off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they work as well as they once did. I also think a lot of people are looking for more value around what they are trying to achieve, right? And therefore, getting a discount is, you're attracting the wrong types of clients with using discounts on the front end, but also go back to our topic, getting somebody to refer in
Yep.
people who join your list who love what you do. I think that's super powerful, and it's a super interesting way of them evangelizing about the brand. I think when I talk about the word evangelizing, I think about Guy Kawasaki, who is at Apple and now is a chief evangelist officer, I think
Mm-hmm.
is what he likes to call himself. So a lot of the email platforms will allow you to send silent links to other people, right? A lot of social media, it's liking or it's following, right? I've seen here in the UK and in Europe, getting people to sign up and giving them incentives through like a WhatsApp group where you can collate lots of different people is super powerful, because WhatsApp gives you direct communication, email gives you direct communication, Meta, as we all know, through running Meta campaigns, they want you to pay now. They're not giving you organic reach, and so being able to harvest your existing client base to drive new interest and to drive more deep intent of referrals, I think is super powerful.
Okay, so as you were talking there, I heard both, positive aspects of using this approach, using the
Yeah.
technology that's available to plug into, but also some of the downsides that exist when it comes to not doing it right or being incentivized for the wrong reason and maybe getting the wrong people, which doesn't do the business any favors because they're never going to buy, right? So you really need to approach this very intentionally and strategically. Gosh, that's a word we like around here.
Love it.
And be careful about being blinded by the cool technology and the ability to just, flip a switch or toggle something or check a box and go, look, we now have a referral system. You need to have some thought behind it, which is what I heard you say.
Yes, but you also need to have some intentionality behind what the end purpose is,
Yep.
right? Because we have definitely talked about this before. Maybe this is privately, we've talked about this idea that people are just building lists for building lists' sake, right? They believe that they can monetize the list as they grow it after a certain point.
Yep.
Whereas I would say actually there's a concept of 1,000 fans, which we're all kind of hopefully familiar with, which is you get 1,000 people in your ecosystem who love what you do, and therefore you have that tribe, and they will buy from you repeatedly. And so for me, you're absolutely spot on the money. I think you have to be intentional about what the outcome is that you're driving towards with these systems, but also you then need to make it easy for people to take that next step. But you also need to make it super easy for people to opt out.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to talk about that for a second because I feel that's a really, really important thing. I had a client 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, and we sent an email out to their list, I think of about 4,000 people, and some people unsubscribed, and the proprietor of the business was horrified. And I said to her the next week, when we had a catch-up call, I said, I actually like people who unsubscribed. And she looked at me confused and horrified at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, look, I really want us to be talking to people who are engaged and are ready to spend. Right, they may not be ready to spend this month. They may be ready to spend in 3 months' time. But within between now and then, we can warm them up and we can get them even more excited. But having a lot of people on the list who are just on the list for being on the list's sake, cool, fantastic. Let's get rid of a lot of them. I know you've done this recently, and I'm going to throw this back at you, David. I know you recently got rid of a lot of people on your list because they just wouldn't open the emails, they weren't
Yep.
being reactive. And I think that's a really, really positive thing. So I think, make it easy for people to take the next step, have a clear next step or a clear end goal, and then thirdly, make it easy for people to opt out when they are ready. And don't get offended by it. Actually see it as a good sign that you're maintaining a list. You're maintaining a healthy list. You're also talking to a smaller audience that are more engaged, more ready to take action, and that can be far more exciting, far more that can generate far more revenue. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we're in the business of.
You're right. I've actually I purge my list every 90 days, and I did one major purge a few years ago where I dropped it from 4,000 people to six or 500 or 600 people. And I've been hovering in the hundreds of people on my list, not thousands of people on my list for years, since doing that. And my open rates and click rates are considerably higher as a result because the engagement is with the right people, not with the wrong people. You started talking about social capital at the beginning of our conversation, and I want to share a quick story, which is a great segue into what I imagine Ken is going to talk about here. Last week there was, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, a major online software launch for a product that doesn't really matter what the product was, but this guy who was one of the big affiliates years ago had been out of the affiliate marketing game, really didn't have a list to speak to. He had, used to have hundreds of thousands of people on his list. Now he's got a couple thousand, and he identified the three or so hundred people on his list who were the most engaged and the most likely to react positively to a promotion. And he went out and he promoted to those people only. Okay, 300, 400, something like that. He came in first or second in the affiliate competitions for this major, six-figure promotion of this software, because not because he had a great big list, but because of the relationship that he had with those 300 or 400 people, and his recommendation or his referral to this particular product resonated with them, or the fact that it was a message coming from him resonated with them. And that's, I think, one of the things that gets so incredibly overlooked, particularly in the easy push button online era in which we live. And so I want to shift. You can keep going online if you want, but I want to shift a little bit more to the reality of the way that humans behave, and pass things over to Ken.
I think as we think about referrals, we have to ask ourselves, what is the most natural way for someone to refer? And I think the most natural way is not much of what we see artificially crafted for us through email or through some of these other things, but is rather person to person. And I could think of hundreds of times where you and I, David, have had conversations about, hey, should we buy this? Should we think about this? Well, who do you know who has this? There are lots and lots of times. In fact, I got an email yesterday from an active client who said, basically, I'm looking to buy some certain things, and can you give me some recommendations for those items? And we said, yeah, of course. Not a problem. Easy to do. And it's a very natural human referral. I think that much of what I see out there is concocted by marketers and isn't natural. And the closer we can get to one person having a conversation with another, the better. The hard part is it's very difficult to influence that without having a real, deep, trusting relationship. And so I think the thing that we have to ask ourselves first and foremost is not, how do I build the perfect referral engine? But rather, how do I build the perfect trust generation engine? What does my business need to do to garner trust from my tribe? How do I do that?
We've seen this play out in a bunch of businesses. We've installed this concept in businesses, and so maybe you can back up and talk a little bit about what the systematic approach to building trust looks like in a business, and therefore, if that's the starting point and the end point or the end game, the goal here is to impact increased revenue as a result of that. After you've built the system around building trust, then what has to go in place to be able to then extract those additional referrals that we're looking for?
Absolutely. So I would say, first and foremost, the number one biggest challenge is you have to develop a human relationship, often in a way and via means that you're not used to. Right? I want to take just a very brief aside as to human psychology. We develop relationships with the people we're closest to. Like, proximity breeds relationship by definition, right? So we all had those jobs when we were younger where we worked with a bunch of people, and many of them became friends. But if you were to step back and objectively look at that person, you'd say, why in the world do I spend time with this person? Right? And there's some really great quotes out there around the nature of personal development and personal growth being centered around who you're spending time with. And so the question that I think we have to ask and answer is, if proximity breeds relationship, how do I breed proximity in my business? If you're a coffee shop, that's easy. You get them to come in day after day after day. And after, 60 days of them regularly coming there, 80 days of them regularly coming there, you have a very strong relationship that's difficult to break. But we have to have a strategy. We have to have a process to get those first 60, 80 days. That's a lot harder when my business maybe is, a dentist, or is a, service that is not purchased often. And so I think that's where we have to look at, okay, how can I artificially create proximity? This could be through things like client delight events, where what we're going to do is we're going to invite some people to come to our location, or we're going to, have a party for people at a random point, or it could be, how do I go spend time where my clients already are? Right. I think one of the big reasons that business networking is so popular is not necessarily just because you can, quote, find new clients, but because you can use it to strengthen the client relationship you already have. There's also things like physical mail or videos or an email that, when sent in a deeply personal way, even if that is en masse, it can serve as some of that bridge. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, the question is, how do I create enough proximity for you to say, oh, I'm familiar, I know, I like, I trust? My favorite example of this, by the way, David, I'm going to out you slightly, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is the fact that you own a MyPillow.
Well, it's okay. To balance it out, I don't know if you noticed, I put my Harris for President sticker behind me, so we're even now.
Here's the thing: familiarity was bred.
Mm-hmm.
right? This guy sends so much direct mail,
Yeah.
and he runs so much advertisement that he creates familiarity. And even though we may not like his politics, we may not like him personally, we may whatever, he can breed familiarity through these tools. And I think that's the key. Is we've got to recognize that you can breed familiarity through a really strong system.
Mhm.
And that's what we have to ask ourselves. How do we do this?
Well, there's the example that you've given has sent me in a direction of thinking about advertising and budgets and being able to broadcast big messages, but this is something that can be taken down to a local scale. And just to go back to the example that I gave before you started talking about this guy who won this affiliate contest, he explained exactly what he did. And what he did was he spent a couple of weeks beforehand, not intentionally gearing up for this event, but trying to rebuild his business that had fallen apart, make it rebuilding relationships, DMing people on Facebook and checking in and seeing how they're doing and asking if there's anything they need from him. And so because this promotion happened a couple of weeks after he had real sincere conversations with just dozens of people, he was able to leverage that. And so it doesn't need to be at the scale of TV ads and postcards and major campaigns, showing up in front of somebody everywhere they are, but showing up in a meaningful way to the right people who can influence the referral opportunity. So
Yeah.
I think, there is that intentional thing. And so I wonder if you can talk a little bit about, once that trust is set up, once that familiarity is set up, what it looks like to, I love your word, extract referrals.
Yeah. My favorite way to extract referrals is minorly counterintuitive, although it is socially normative. We ask. And we don't ask in big, grand, highfalutin ways. We ask simply, kindly, without a lot of words. Hey, can you help me out? How does your friend ask you to come help them move their home? They don't ask in big, grandiose, long emails. They say, hey, are you free Saturday? I really need some help moving. Right? Hey, I'm building XYZ furniture. I could really use some help. Can you help me out? Right? A couple days ago, we were replacing a faucet in the house that broke. And I had never shut off the water at our house before. And I went over to my neighbor, who's a contractor, and I said, hey, this is going to sound a little weird. I don't know how to shut off the water at my house. I know there's a water main over there, but I don't know how to shut it off. I grew up on a well. If you wanted to shut off the water on a well, you just turned the well off. I don't know how to do that on city water. Can you show me? Well, sure. In fact, this is the tool that you need. Let me show you how to do it. Right? Done. Took 2 minutes, but it was a personal ask.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that I'd sent him, a lengthy email requesting his presence at the water shutoff valve at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. The more natural and human we can be, the better. And I think that as an industry, marketers sometimes try to complicate things more than they need to be. And so it's build the relationship, ask for the help that you need.
Yeah. And look, not every scenario is going to be as simple as a one-to-one personal ask the way that you've just described, but you can emulate that vibe, that feel in whatever means of communication you have, as long as it is natural based on the type of relationship that you started. We got to wrap things up in the next couple of minutes here. This is one of the areas that is really at the core of our philosophy and the work that we do with clients. I have my visual aid back behind me. I don't know if either of you have yours there on the desk. But
I'm still waiting to be sent one.
You know, it's available at amazon.co.uk if you'd like a copy. But for those who would like to actually get a free copy of the PDF version of our quick read, but as many business owners and marketers have told us, really impactful in terms of the type of ideas around marketing and revenue growth that you can consider. Oh, I love the creepy crawl, you know, sort of the
Slow pan.
slow pan. Love it. For those listening, you're missing out greatly. Our book, The Prepared Marketing System, is available at thepreparedgroup.com/book. You can go ahead and get a free PDF copy of the book. Guys, any last words of wisdom before we wrap up for today? I love the silence when I say any words of wisdom.
I can think of one company that I think is doing excellently in a slightly different way. So I get text emails from a company called Spoke, which they sell every type of men's jeans and men's trousers you can imagine, right? I found that they don't know me, but getting an email from Helen or George or whoever is like, so I'm the chief warehouse officer or whatever, something ridiculous titled, right? But them saying, hey, what 20, we've only got 20 pairs of shorts left for this summer in sizes, right? And for me, that really breaks up their monotony in terms of doing, not monotony, but in terms of like doing really polished emails. Just getting this 3-line text, I start to feel that I know that person. So, if you're not sending text-based emails now and again, to do some of this referral stuff, start doing it. And here's the real secret: you can automate all of this stuff. So it seems that you're writing a personalized 3-line email, but you're not. But it has the same value.
As long as it's delivering on the real, true person-to-person kind of emotional impact that Ken was talking about, and that's absolutely possible even in an automated way. You just got to sort of step back and think,
correct,
how am I going to build this out and do it in the right way that's going to be meaningful for my business and the type of relationship I have with those I serve. And so I love that. Ken, anything else before we wrap up?
I think we've said it all.
All right. Well, brilliant. Go grab a copy of the book, thepreparedgroup.com/book. And we'll be back here, I believe, next Tuesday on LinkedIn Live. And for those of you listening to the podcast, thank you so much for listening. And if you know somebody who could benefit from the conversation you just heard, please share it with them. Till next time, I'm David Baer with AJ Saunders and Ken Cook. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.